Man, there's so many of them out there. I think you should make a bunch of different stuff. When you do start getting into a DAW, let's talk about getting into a DAW. When you do start getting into a DAW and you find your genre and you kind of have the idea what you want, we can kind of segue more into production because that's kind of what I do. But when you do kind of going back to like, okay, what, weapon do I want? What character class? What traits? And that whole like analogy, the RPG analogy. You want to go into your DAW, and every DAW is different. So let's talk DAWs. Let's say, and I'll break this down for a lot of different types of people, because there may be some people that are already a musician, because this entire conversation was pretty much like, if you had no idea. But let's say, I'm just going to span out all the DAWs, okay? So, let's talk DAWs, all right? A DAW, or in other words, a DAW. In other words, a computer program that makes music, okay? I don't think anybody else describes it as that, but it's a computer program that you use to make music. It is a Microsoft Word, right? That, because Microsoft Word, you write papers, all right? DAWs are the Microsoft Word of making music. It's a computer program to make music. All right, so we got through that. When you're considering which DAW, so DAWs, which DAW should you go with? All right, first, if you're a musician, if you're already playing an instrument, I think 9 times out of 10, what you're looking for is a program or a software where you can pretty much, a program or a software where you can pretty much hit record. A program or software where you can pretty much hit record. Oh, fuck, I don't know why I'm just trying to start this over. DAWs, which DAW you should go with. If you're a musician, it's probably best for you to go with a program where you can just hit record. You can play your instrument through the entire song and then hit record, and that's probably going to work best, right? 9 times out of 10, that's Logic. It just is. It's got everything you need. It's got all the sounds, especially if you're going into a particular pop genre. It's got all of the key bread and butter tools. It's just it. And it's kind of tailored to that whole, because we're in Ableton right now, but if we just click, it's tailored to this left to right view, okay? Where you click, you're recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, you play your whole track out, and then you stop, and then you play the next line, or you record the entire band, and then you add the effects on later. Logic is going to take the cake for that, and you're probably going to have to do that on a Mac, and when you're going to see a lot of people with MacBook Pros, totally fine. Totally ideal too. That's not a bad option to go with at all. But there are some DAWs, there's some different programs that may tailor to different genres differently, or better, worse. So you have, let's say, if you were like, I want to make some fucking beats, I want to make some bangers, I'm probably going to steer you into FL Studio. It's got a nice drum sequencer. It's got everything in there. It's kind of tailored to what sounds you're looking for. The user interface is there. It's a one-time purchase, Why not, man? A lot of people are using that, and they're going back and forth from FL to Pro Tools. But and then FL now, you used to only be able to rock that on Windows. Now you can do it on both. So, am I on FL? No. Am I on Logic? No. But do I do any of those? No. So, the next thing we'll kind of move on. And there's others. There's Cubase. There's Cakewalk. There's so many, dude. I'm just going over the big ones. One big one, though, and then this is what people will look at you in the face and they'll go, Pro Tools is the industry standard. Okay, it is. That's fine. From the perspective of someone who's just getting into this, maybe you don't have to go Pro Tools. If you came to me and you were like, hey man, can you sell me a DAW? I would ask you what I probably just asked you, but the only reason I would sell somebody Pro Tools and be comfortable selling somebody Pro Tools, feeling that they would use and get their money out of Pro Tools, is somebody who had, one, they already have clientele, obviously, because you're going to have to pay for Pro Tools consistently. They dig out of your pocket, all right? They're good. But two, you're going to have previous knowledge on a DAW, okay? You're going to know how to use this shit, otherwise you end up paying somebody. 3, you have outboard gear that you want to hook up Pro Tools to, okay? You're not just on a laptop, okay? You got, hell, more than I got out here, preferably, all right? Then Pro Tools starts to make sense. I'm not saying that, like, you need to have this before you get this. If you want to jump into Pro Tools, by all means. It does so much more. It does, and this is just a good example. Let's say you want to start recording. Oh, I feel great. I'm going to start recording. All right, here we go. I just want to jump into this. You open up a new file, right? It's going to ask you, okay, what's the file name? What's this and that? Okay, oh, audio track. What type of audio track you want to hear? How do you want it routed? Okay, no, it's this and that and this and this and this and that. So it's super specific, and it's a lot, so it may not be the best workflow either, is my point. Aside from all this, it's fucking great. It's the best of the best. Like I said, you're gonna be paying, okay? You gotta be knowing, all right? And it's gotta be worth it, okay? A lot of the people nowadays are making these great bangers not on Pro Tools. They may be exporting them, and then some guy that's using Pro Tools, stuff like that, and they'll master it in their studio, which is, you know, actually really hooked up to every little component in their studio, and that's what you're paying for, is you're paying for them to run your track into their expensive materials. And this is just a sidebar, I'm kind of getting way ahead of it. If you're paying somebody to master your track, they better have outboard gear. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now. They better have, and this is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, they better have like something in the corner that looks like this tower with a bunch of fancy knobs and whatnot. Okay, they need to have that. All right, that's what you should be paying for, is them to run your track through that fancy giant tower with all those knobs and lights and stuff, come back in, sound more beautiful and prettier than you could ever imagine, and give it back to you. I would never pay somebody to master my track on their DAW with some plugins that I could do myself. That outboard gear is worth thousands of dollars. You can get recreative plugins that recreate that exact thing, but they just, they don't get close. You know what I'm saying? Some people in the comments, they'll let you know it's close, no cigar. But that's my opinion. But at the end of the day, you teach a man to fish, and you can probably get a good master on your own. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some years, maybe. But regardless, let's get back into DAWs. That's why I fixed my fucking phone. All right, regardless, we'll get back into DAWs, though. So, the DAW that I use, all right? The DAW that I use, Ableton Live. I fell in love with it. I just was lucky to get it. I feel like most people, that's how they get into their DAW. They get it. They get a copy, and they're like, oh, this is the one, and it shows me, So, here's why I love it, okay? And it's mainly just because of Session View, and I believe maybe FL has something similar, but it's this view right here, this little group of squares that make no sense whatsoever when you're first getting into it. But essentially, you're gonna put your different musical parts of the song into these little squares. It's just basically a bunch of different loops at the end of the day. Some of them you made on a little MIDI board in the computer. Some of them you plugged from audio going into the computer. And it's a combination of both that you get to kind of live orchestrate. So if you think into the cartoons, the Bugs Bunny cartoons, there's the guy orchestrating the entire orchestra. This is basically, in my opinion, the modern day of that. I have the ability to, okay, we're going to bring in the bass, we're going to bring in the hi-hat, we're going to bring in this and that, and it's tailored to how I like to set it up, but it gives me the ability to record from left to right afterwards. I can orchestrate this beautiful, real-time, arrangement. So, but it'll make more sense when you get into it, but I just like it because of these squares here. I like the squares. Okay, I like Session View is amazing. It's basically, it has all your loops to itself. You could, in theory, become like person who makes tracks, just loops. So that's totally fine to get started with. It's going to be a little difficult to kind of get the same emotion with just a bunch of random different loops, as you'll find. But it's a good way to get started, starting with a loop to get, inspired, but it's much better kind of just making your own loops. It's the stuff that flies out of your head is always going to have the same sauce to it. So it's much easier to get something that fits together when it's coming out of your head. And that's my opinion. But like I said, there's plenty of people making great tracks with just different random clips. Totally fine. But again, Ableton is great. Hell, I've ran a small radio station off of Ableton Live just by putting in the different noise clips. I had like a little older APC 40 Mark I with the different squares I could touch. Similar to this guy right here, I was just launching the different sound effects and the different next track in and out, and it had a fader on it too. You go left and right. Actually, hang on, I got more toys for you. Never mind, no I don't, because it's buried. But essentially, it had everything, And this right here is a little gadget. We're going to call this a MIDI controller, all right? MIDI controller. It is essentially this guy right here, and we're going to move this out of the way so we can see better. So these right here, see this guy right here, is basically the same thing as this guy, okay? They're the same internally, the way they're used, okay? This one is just mapped up. Memory. It's just mapped up to this program, okay? But I can still play these piano notes on here, right? And I can still launch loops from here and with this. So they're essentially the same, but the thing is, it just gives you a musical reference and a reference to whatever program you're using. Every program, every DAW that you're going to decide on is going to have maybe a controller that's made for it. Or maybe it's just, you can just get a controller and it'll map up to it, whatever. But this is going to give you the reference of what music you're playing, what notes you're playing, and also a reference of what buttons are on the screen. So you don't have to use this as much, but then it's weird because I find myself using this all the time, and this not so much, but it's weird. It's, to each his own. It is very advantageous if you can just survive on this, though. Because that means you can just rock with your laptop anywhere and you're just clicking away. You don't have to use an adapter, your cable plug in. You can just be in the backseat. Done. Airplane. Done. Right? But I digress. That's also a great place to start if you just want to get into production. Just get a fucking MIDI controller. It's going to come probably with the program that it works perfectly with. It'll be cheap-ish, $100-ish. Should be-ish. But anyway, that's Ableton. That's why I like Ableton. So there's tons of different DAWs you can go with. Each one is different. Take it slow. Some of them, like I said, free with the program. Some of them come with if you get a MacBook Pro and you're going in hard into this, it might come with it, Another reason to get with Logic is, I'm familiar with GarageBand. But everything will come slowly. I wouldn't try to force it. Use what you got. And like I said, you can just get it started with just the computer. Because that's the main part. The computer. So aside from that, that pretty much wraps it up. Well, my name is Al, or Al Poe, and this is Messy Music. We just talk about music in a mess, and this is the first of the series. So if you could go ahead and do those things that people tell you. I'm not gonna say it, but you know what I'm. yeah, that it helps. And this is the first one. So thank you for joining us.